coming up on the other side. So 100 Thieves has been moved to not a franchise team, they're now calling them partner teams, by the way. They've completely disavowed the franchise word.
Valorant now, basically, right?
Yeah. And also, like, I think
guest, right? Like
the provisional guests.
Right, they have this title. Like that's the only thing, because I watched the video, and so you have like partners teams, and then you have guest team, which is pretty easy to understand. And only for 100 Thieves, you have provisional guest team. So can you like give me more? Like, I do really not understand what it is.
Okay, Zabatin, we'll do the 100 Thieves thing now then. So 100 Thieves makes and it has been, I'm glad you brought this up, because it's extremely fucking confusing what this is. And even 100 Thieves on their own AMA has refused to explain what the fuck provisional guest team means. So I have had to put it together from listening to Mark Z be extremely opaque about this, from the announcements and the video that 100 Thieves put out on Twitter about this, which is also hilarious, because if you watch the 100 Thieves video, they literally start with, well, what is a provisional guest team? And then proceed to never answer the question on their own video after saying we sold. So here's my theory, guys, about what this means, all right? I can only theorize, but I think what happened is that Riot said, all right, teams, who wants to leave the league? And 100 Thieves was like, ooh, me. And Riot's like, not you, 100 Thieves, not you. Yep. And they said, you know what? So we don't like you, Immortals, so we're going to offer you, this amount of money, right? And fuck you, Energy. We're going to offer you...
I do appreciate that, like, Riot also has managed to create a system where when they made the franchising, everyone, like the USA, desperately want to get in. Now at the end of franchising, it's the Soviet Union, and it's there to trap you in, and you are not allowed to leave. Like, please, can I leave so you can get a different partner? No, not yet. Not yet, you can't.
So we can infer a lot of things about 100 Thieves business as well. So basically, I think what happened, my theory as to what happened, is they probably offered 100 Thieves less money to leave at first than Immortals and NRG, because they didn't want them to actually exit the league, because they think the brand is valuable. And to 100 Thieves credit, they actually
having a lot of fans and all that shit, right?
Well, they've also had a lot of competitive success. They've had pretty consistent competitive success, reaching finals, winning finals. NRG, people will say NRG won recently, but like nobody gives a shit about the NRG brand, especially when they just took it over from CLG. So I think they're much more disposable. Also, over the in the past 5 years, CLG's results were way worse than 100 Thieves overall. And 100 Thieves does have more, I think, brand cachet than either CLG or NRG at this stage in esports history. So I think they said, nah, 100 Thieves, like, we're going to work out something different with you. So they did pay the money eventually to 100 Thieves, and they made them a provisional guest. And what this means is that 100 Thieves doesn't actually own the slot anymore. They do not have the protections of franchising. They've been very upfront about that, meaning that they can eventually be removed from the league. And as far as I can tell, this means just that for this year, they are going to be part of this. And they probably do not get the full stipend, the $1.5 million base rev share that's coming around. So they probably get a smaller stipend is what I'm assuming happens. But because they got this buyout, they will be able to use the buyout to fund their League of Legends team. And also, it's not like they're going to be spending enough money anyway. And as 100 Thieves stated, they wanted to stay in League of Legends because 100 Thieves doesn't have any other businesses at this point in time, guys. Like, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but they sold their energy drink brand. And on a podcast, Nadeshot said that they basically broke even. They didn't even make money from selling that brand. So what happened was they created their Juvie energy brand and they sold it to a beverage company that's based in Wisconsin or something, I think, like that. And effectively, they just were like revenue neutral on that because of all the costs they had to create the thing, and then they didn't have a company that was going to be able to actually sustain that, right? They canceled. They actually just sold off their AAA game that they were making. Like, they became a game development company for a while. They didn't actually make profit off of their energy drinks. So they have High Ground, which is their keyboard. They have their fucking hoodies, and now they have their esports teams. And John Robinson, who is their CEO, has just pieced out of the company. And I think he was very incompetent at running the company, and he's gone now. But what do they have? The real question is, what do they have left? Like, Nadeshot isn't the CEO anymore. Nadeshot has said very specifically that if he could go back in time and not get involved in esports, he would. Literally said that.
I was just gonna say my favorite type of content right now is Nade Shot on podcasts and streams talking about how he would get a time machine and never get involved with esports. Like, think about everything he's been involved in. He was at the head, by the way, if people remember this, with the idea of streaming exclusivity back when it was MLG TV.
I mean, he made a fucking ton of money off of that, by the way.
Yeah, right. Like, he then put that money into creating an esports organization. He's obviously been at the very successful, Apparel.
It means for his whole career, not just like the
No. Just for 100 Thieves. Just for 100 Thieves.
Yeah. He would literally go back and get his younger self. Don't put that money into 100 Thieves, bro. Don't make 100 Thieves. Like, so essentially, the totality of everything 100 Thieves has achieved is like it's left Nade Shot feeling empty and despondent. And it's wild.
He literally forced everybody to move to Los Angeles to do the 100 Thieves compound theme and then he moved himself to Texas recently and said, I'm no longer CEO. Like, it's outrageous, the way the 100 Thieves is being run. But they don't have.
Sorry, I was going to say. I'll say this. I think, unfortunately, what happened somewhere along the line, and I don't have any insight about this. Me and Nade Shot haven't talked for a while. I don't even know if we're still like cool or whatever. Because I've like said some pretty heinous shit about 100 Thieves in the past. All of it true, but that never matters. But I'd love to ask him about it, because it seemed to me that what happened was somewhere along that line, just before they moved and did that compound thing and did that crypto deal, I think he was getting a bit like jaded, and he didn't and a bit stressed out with running such a big company. And I think he brought in some executives that he thought they know what they're doing, and I think he just listened to them. When we all know how that works, like you bring in the business people and
turn this into banging on Nade Shot, because like I actually really appreciate the way he's handling media, and like I appreciate the insights that he's giving these days, and I think he's right.
Transparency is always
his transparency is really good, and I think he's right. So it's really cool to actually see that, and for his own sanity, I think it's great that he gave up the control of the company. But the point is really that what is 100 Thieves going on right now. And one of the things that we see from Milk, who, by the way, comes from Alliance and the Alex Garfield like farm system, if you guys don't know. Jacob Toft Anderson is his name.
Just appreciate any time you have someone addressing your league audience who's an iconic Dota player. So just again, as usual, Americans just know best.
So,
well done, guys.
But one of the things he says in the insane hostage video that 100 Thieves released about their participation in League of Legends was that
we are so happy to be here.
We love League of Legends. Thank you for the money, Riot Games, and also we get to participate in League for free now, so thank you. Is that they say they need the money.
Arcane.
They need the money. This is the state of esports right now. 100 Thieves, by the way, according to what they are literally saying, is that they need the money to secure the runway for the company. They need $6 million.
If they don't get this,
I don't know. Hell. Look, who knows? That's just what they said, is that they're like, the money will secure the runway for the company. Now, what that means, we can interpret. But like, it is difficult to believe that we might be at a point where 100 Thieves is so fucked financially that they need $6 million.
Wasn't the compound like 50 million or something mental? It was only a few years ago, wasn't it? Like $50 million.
The 100 Thieves.
It was such a waste of money, dude.
The 100 Thieves compound was predicated on the business belief that crypto was secure and was going to last forever. And if you remember, they sold naming rights as well to a Cash App. Right. And so they were like, "This is going to totally pay for itself." And
I want to blow up. I also want to blow up the Rocket Mortgage thing, because people were like, "Ooh, Rocket Mortgage," and Rocket Mortgage is, I think, the largest mortgage company in America. But the thing about it, guys, is what you don't know is that Dan Gilbert, who is the CEO of that company, is an investor in 100 Thieves. So he was using it as a vehicle to advertise his own companies via his investment. So it's not like they went out and got, he runs Quicken as well. So this is not
the Cavaliers. If people don't,
it was like
the guy who owns the Cavaliers.
It was like what Overwatch did with the Coca-Cola sponsorship deal, like because Bobby Kotick was on the board of Coca-Cola.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't like a massive sponsorship where all this money was flooding in. It was like, I'm already investing, so we're gonna benefit my businesses because I'm a partial investor.
Right. It's like how Shopify Rebellion is owned by Shopify. Or SK Telecom T1 or KT are owned by SK Telecom and KT, right? Yeah. And Dan Gilbert's not the only person, but he was one of the very early investors in 100 Thieves. So, basically 100 Thieves right now is saying, we are willing to continue to play League of Legends because we're going to spend the absolute minimum, basically, in order to make this happen. And we still want to be relevant because without participating in this, what else do we have at this point in time besides the COD team, which isn't much. But the downfall of 100 Thieves has to be studied, man. I mean, the amount of money they blew. Also, the sponsors they pissed off, because being behind the scenes, 100 Thieves would frequently massively oversell sponsorship deals and then underdeliver because their entire audience was 15-year-olds who couldn't buy things. And so 100 Thieves is really responsible for burning a bunch of major sponsors out of the space who spent a fuck ton of money and got no return.
Yeah.
I just want to I think there's plenty of very interesting. I didn't have really a jumping point, but the first thing for 100 Thieves that can be studied, I think there's a really good parallel with Optic. I think they both have kind of the same core DNA coming from COD through a content creator that was massively successful. I mean, they come from the same, right? Even a group of people. I think the disaster of Optic, corporate Optic, and the disaster, and I mean, it's not yet, or hope not, disaster of 100 Thieves shows that the scalability of esports through a content creator is pretty hard to execute because your own success is not something you can teach and expand with a VC behind you. It's not because you inject more money on Nature or Hex that suddenly everybody around him is going to generate views and you're going to be able to monetize this view on the same scale. And investing it on esports, which is an industry that had to.
It's also dangerous because if those people leave, if Nadeshot or Scump leave those orgs, what the fuck do they have?
Because they're basically agencies. Like the core is you can get Compound, you can get as many cameras, as many esports teams. Like the reality is it's an agency, right? It's a talent agency. If tomorrow, even you can take influencer based companies. If tomorrow Kamedo leaves from Carmine Corp, how many fans are gonna stay, right? It's like you're running basically a talent agency where your biggest talent is very much carrying the whole train. Right. And I don't think it is a scalable business model. And on top of that, investing in esports, which is an industry which has to always work with a subsequent industry, right? It has been crypto, we always have to work in pair with another tech industry to generate the money we don't. And so when you compound that, right, and you just merge both, right, you have pretty much a recipe for failure. It just doesn't work. Over the years, we haven't seen a lot of scaling up, right? They work, Carmine Corp works, 100 Thieves in the former version was working. I think Optic is still very, very much a successful brand, but whenever you try to inject money, it doesn't work. And then it leaves you to coming back to the LTA. I think the people who are getting employed right now that are getting contracted by 100 Thieves, what is their incentive to perform well? And why would Riot keep an organization, right? That's a genuine question from my end. Why would Riot keep an organization that has the promise to not deliver? They don't care. They're here because they want the money. They're going to put their brand and their logo, but they're just here to exist, and then they're going to exit whenever they can. So why would Riot, announcing a brand new product, would want an organization that's giving them the guarantee that they're not going to be there next year?
To your last point, Zab, first of all, there was an entire league in esports where no one wanted to be there and everyone was just min-maxing until they could exit. It was called the Overwatch League.
I thought you were going to do the Flashpoint, it was right there. But I guess Overwatch League
shitting on my colleagues, a new segment with Richard Lewis. No, obviously it was the Overwatch League, but yeah, fuck Flashpoint, whatever. So, so that's the first point. Obviously, the whole franchising concept essentially was one of the bricks of Jenga that destroyed North American esports because it didn't work as a business model. It made no financial sense. It was being funded by VC groups that were literally rolling the dice on an investment they didn't really care about. You know, they were investments, but they weren't invested. They didn't care about the outcome. And that's why they all exited 3 to 5 years later saying, listen, that esports thing was a total fugazi, but this crypto and NFT shit, and on and on and on it goes, right?
You
so
ever noticed that, Richard? Even though we were told Shaq's an investor in NRG, and then, you know, Steph Curry's, I forget which, was it Team Liquid Monty? He invested in a team. It was DSM. DSM, I think, was that, right? Notice how these people, it's always announced when they come in. They never mention anything when they leave, I notice. It's almost like Shaq forgot he invested in NRG. You're right, it's all fugazi in it.
The best part about those celebrity investments being named is, of course, it's not like Shaq comes and says, oh, hey, nice to meet you, Mr. NRG. Here's a big chunk of money. Tell me about your operation. It ain't like Shark Tank. What they do is they have their money that's wrapped up in an investment portfolio, and their portfolio manager just says, esports is popping off. This appears to be a good thing. Yeah, so we'll put some money in there for you, Shaq. Don't worry about it. But what would help the investment go up would be if you just announced publicly. I mean, it was like somebody did that to him, where it was like when we were at E-League, and they said to him like, which players do you like on NRG? And he was like, oh, I don't think about that, man. Just, you know, he didn't know. So it was like, yeah. And it's like, it was a shitty thing to do, because obviously it makes Shaq look a bit silly, and Shaq's good people. But, you know, anyway, that's kind of like that thing. So anyway, that's to your point there, Zab. The other point about why would Riot want a partner that's completely checked out and not invested? It's a very good question. And the answer is there for everybody to see. First of all, it is the timing of everything that's going on with the league. How do we get somebody of similar size and, let's say, operational competence as 100 Thieves to come in at such short notice? And the second part to it is 100 Thieves, in the absence of a TSM and all the, you know, golden years of it, they're a pretty big draw by today's standards. And so you have to, even though it's the illusion of 100 Thieves, the management are checked out. Well, the players know they probably don't have a future unless the team is being picked up wholesale when a new operator comes in. And also Riot are, of course, the ones propagating the sale. They're the ones looking for the new buyer. 100 Thieves are just like, you handle that shit. We just want it sold. Yeah. So ultimately, this is very similar to something that happened in sports. Do you follow football, Zab? Are you a football fan? Right. Yeah, so do you remember when, because of, you know, the geopolitical circumstances, they got Abramovich out of Chelsea? And temporarily, the British government owned Chelsea Football Club while they propagated a sale for another buyer that was deemed to be, well, was approved by the FA and, of course, not a Russian oligarch, and therefore approved by the British government. That's essentially what's happening to 100 Thieves. Okay. with Riot being the British government in this instance. So they keep them around because it's a brand that they can leverage, that they now ultimately control.
It's also the PR, Richard, which is that they announced that they wanted to keep 6 LCS teams, and turns out 6 LCS teams didn't want to be kept. Like, it's embarrassing. Correct. It's embarrassing to launch a new product, and, you know, basically they can avoid a lot of the PR blowback because 100 Thieves is still there, and people aren't going to look into the fact that they're this provisional guest, and they sold. I mean, even though they literally announced they sold their franchise slot on their fucking Twitter, you know, I don't think the broader media sphere is going to pick up on that or talk about it. Riot certainly isn't, but it would look really bad if their plans suddenly, you know, they had this disaster. They've said they don't want to have another, you know, promote another team, basically, and they've said they're looking for other partners, but they didn't want to sell it on such a short timeline, which I do think is fair to Riot, by the way. You do want to find the right person to take over this slot, and you do want to do your due diligence.
Tell me more about how terrible it would be for someone's business interests to be forced to sell in an incredibly short window they could never have prepared for.
Well, yeah, that would maybe they learned. Really, maybe they learned from past mistakes. Maybe they learned from past mistakes.
By the way, I actually think, using my ability to read between the lines, I actually think I can answer that question for you of what the word provisional is doing in that area, Zabatine, which is if you go to the part where it says, we will review our plans for the provisional guest team throughout 2025. That just translates to me as there might not be a guest slot if we don't need it. We can get another big partner like they're just saying right now. But if we still really desperately need 100 Thieves, let's just pop the word provisional here that no one knows what it means, so we can actually excuse giving them another year for next year. I think that just essentially means it's our option whether we're going to lease or buy, as it were, you know.
And I do want to come up with, so if you guys are curious, and we will link it, there's a 100 Thieves LOL Q&A with Jacob Toft Anderson, aka Milk, and Joseph Jang, aka Jungle Juice, who used to be the GM of the LOL team.
Yeah.
But I guess he's like the VP of all esports now. Anyway, that doesn't matter.
This
the
comment,
point is,
this comment chain is
it
fucking
goes from
hilarious.
like League of Legends GM to like VP. It's like, mate, someone turn off the lights on the way out of 100 Thieves in a year. Will you fucking hell, bro? Is the janitor the CEO now? What's going on? This is mental.
all right. So there's a comment here that Milk responds to that I'm going to read in both of these in their entirety because they were downvoted because people actually hate when people give answers to your questions for some reason. It's not a dislike button. Look, Reddit users, I know you're dumb, but like, it's not a dislike button, okay? It is a relevancy button, and you should be upvoting these comments, but you're too stupid to understand that. All right, here's the question.
Wait a minute, I don't like what I'm hearing. Puts knife into own ears. I can't hear anything now. I'll teach you for telling me what I wanted to. What are you doing, you lunatic? Just shut the fucking chill out. I know. Chill out. Got Richard right when he's taking a drink there.
Fucking hell, bro. You trying to kill me, man? What the fuck?
I'm already a lapsed fan due to out-of-game stuff, but seeing this...
Wait, it's not Catholicism, is it?
That's right.
It's just like in a fucking video game. What are they even using that
I like how you say the lapsed fan as though real life is the addiction, as if real life is the addiction, and you've lapsed back into real life. I'm sorry, I need my fantasy esports. I'm already a lapsed fan due to out-of-game stuff, but seeing this completely shocked me. I guess my main question is, how could you possibly expect to build and maintain any kind of fandom in LoL if you can't commit to being in the space? Very reasonable question. Very reasonable question. Why would I, as a fan, continue to support this team and buy apparel if like I know it's going to be gone in a year?
He's been getting fucked by 100 Thieves. There you go. There's a free one for you. More like a prolapsed fan. There you go. It feels like all you've been doing is fucking my ass.
Jesus. And so here's Milk's answer, which is great. Also honest. You know, he is very Northern European in his approach to this
scenario. It's a mistake, to be somewhat honest. I'd just stick with the PR corp and speak.
So I do want to shout out Milk for this answer because, like,
he did, yeah.
It's kind of based, honestly. It's kind of based, but also not what you want to hear, and it's not good PR.
Yeah, it's a terrible answer, but it is based. It can be both. Both can be true.
I'll be entirely candid with you. I think if you're focused on LoL and LoL alone, and your priority is to devote your time and energy as a fan to a team that has the highest probability of lifetime involvement with League of Legends, then I would recommend putting your trust in Cloud9 and Team Liquid.
I can't even believe anyone actually wrote
someone else.
Mate, can you even imagine like a Premier League team? Like, you might disagree with the Saudis taking over Newcastle, maybe become a Manchester United fan. What are you talking about, you lunatic? What? You aware you work for that team? Like, what?
I mean, yeah, it's like literally ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left, United is shit. Have you tried Liverpool? Like, it's just so antithetical to what you're supposed to say as an executive of a brand.
It is on the listen. If it's just a bloke in a town, it's really helpful advice. But you're fucking like main guy at 100 Thieves.
Oh, that's what I mean. Like if that was a user on Reddit saying perhaps we would all be better off, they're totally fine within the wheelhouse. You're literally meant to be encouraging people to stick around and spend money on your brand.
I mean, but also this is just an indication that they aren't going to be there next year.
That's how checked out they are. That's how checked out they are. Yeah.
But I love the next statement too, because this actually just feeds into the primary delusion of esports in general, which is just things that you hope are true but aren't true. So here we go. We, as a brand, are so much more than just any one singular title. And I think most fans are missing out if they choose to rally behind one game. It's like, dude, that's not how esports works.
So let's just update this. Listen, do you still like League? Maybe try Cloud9 or Team Liquid. Of course, you could just stop playing League entirely.
You could just, you really don't understand the experience of being part of 100 Thieves if you're not watching COD as well. It's like, that's not how esports or sports work. Imagine if Stan Kroenke, right, was like, I know the Rams aren't as good this year after we won the Super Bowl, but Rams fans, have you considered being Arsenal fans? It's like, what?
Yeah.
You're not getting the cronky experience by just being a Rams fan.
Every time 100 Thieves and their engagement with esports is brought up, everyone watching now, just do this exercise. Go to the 100 Thieves website. Now tell me, how far into the website do you have to scroll? How many links do you have to click to find a reference to a picture of their esports teams?
It doesn't just look like it is in an apparel store, doesn't it? I know it's mad.
Go. You do it and get back to me, guys, because I've been doing it the whole show. It's still not there. Still haven't found one. It's crazy. It's easier to find a reference to Dragon Ball Z, with Duncan's favorite, than it is to find a reference to their esports team. That is mental. That is how fucking checked out they are, guys. And if you think I'm exaggerating, try it now yourself and put into the chat how long it took you. Because I love, is it red pilling people on this? 100 Thieves do not give a fuck about esports in its totality. That answer by Melk, and I love Melk, by the way, he's a really cool dude. But like, that answer by Melk just is so like, we love all of our you don't love esports, just admit it. It's like Zab says, you are essentially now a talent agency and you don't even rep players anymore. You just rep influencers. And that's fine, by the way, go make your money.
Also, I mean, the joke about the influencer thing with 100 Thieves is when Valkyrie and Courage and announced we're partial owners of 100 Thieves. Notice they never said how much. It's a tiny amount. Notice that they probably got shares that they can't actually sell on their own and they can't divest from. So they're literally just locked into it until the end of time. And also, it has to be said, the fumbling they did with Valkyrie in particular, they got so lucky to have the fastest rising YouTuber in the fucking world, and they did almost nothing with her, which is insane, the opportunity that they lost from that, because they completely lucked into that. And the value was just never generated. Anyway, let's go back to his comment, because we're not only done.
Yeah.
Personally, I am an esports fan across an ever-growing amount of titles. Also, 100 Thieves, you're only literally in 3 games right now. You're only in COD, League of Legends, and Valorant. So basically you telling your fan, like 1/3 of your fans, that they shouldn't be involved is pretty insane. That have experienced fandom from both the in and outside of a team, and I have never found a more appealing community than the one I did with 100 Thieves. The story, the ownership, the employees, and the fans have all been second to none for me. I mean, that's just not true. A lot of the leadership of 100 Thieves has been fucking bad. And I was bought into all aspects of the organization from day one. For League of Legends, I firmly believe we have proven that we care first and foremost, and that we care about winning when we can. Like we talked about in the video, we have been at Worlds 4 times. We have won LCS, Academy Amateur, have recruited household names since our inception, and have put a lot of effort into developing our own talent and giving them an honest shot at the LCS. This is all true, by the way. This was Papa Smithy's doing, mostly. Yeah. Have been put a lot of effort into developing. Okay. And we have always strived to bring our community along for the ride, regardless of which storyline we are currently exploring. I don't know what storyline we are currently exploring. I don't even know what the fuck that means. The latest iteration of our roster was actually a huge part in why it was important for us to continue building on our legacy with the League community, which, by the way, was a fluke roster that should not have gone to Worlds. Let's be super clear about that. They should not have gone to Worlds and should not have had any expectations to do so, and then promptly just got fucking wrecked.
And did fuck all at Worlds as well, exactly, yeah.
And we hope to continue doing so for as long as we can, and people are excited about it as we are past 2025.
I mean, what do you want to say, right? It's like I know Malf too. Like, he was my VP of esports on the last year at Optic. Like the roster, I thank him for telling me pull the trigger on Crown. Like, if I have a guy that had the nose to kind of feel like it was probably the best deal, and he has been great to me for my whole year at Optic. Then he moved to 100 Thieves. I think he's, as you say, he's Northern European. I think he's Danish, right? If I'm correct.
I don't know.
It is a very like bold, right, straight to the point statement where I think some people would rather not be American in some point, right? Not give the PR speech, which I mean, culturally Americans will be like, yeah, we're so excited, guys. It's gonna be great. 2025. Stay tuned for 2026.
We're
we'll
so
keep
happy
you
to
updated.
still be in League of Legends and field
we
our
have-
worlds appearing roster.
It's like, oh, by the way, we know we like, and make a PR move like Afro Movies now or general manager, and we're gonna sell the new jerseys, guys. So I respect the move of saying what it is, which is we're here for probably one more year. If you're a legacy fan, you should be prepared for us to leave. That said, you can't point at us saying we haven't tried. And I think that's a very good statement, at least to my European eyes. I much rather read that as a fan, saying we genuinely try to make it work on League of Legends, but we're probably going to exit next year, than saying, guys, you should check out the merch of the next year. The next year jersey, it's going to be great, and looking forward for 2026, and then leave in late 2025 and saying, haha, you just believed us last year. So I actually respect that statement a lot. I agree with you that it is completely off from a corporate standpoint, but as a fan, I would be very happy that my management doesn't lie to me.
The problem is, though, that is the difference between being a European fan and Sabatine, because I think the American fan, as you see by the response, even if it's true what he says, they don't want it to be true. They want to just be told something that makes them feel good, if you know what I mean. So, like, everything you just said there in that, like, corporate speech is probably what they want to hear. They want to hear shit like, this isn't downsizing. This is, this is the start of a brand new journey to the top.
Right,
just like when we, all that shit. They want to know, like, the fantasy version of why it's all going to be brilliant in the future and everything.
It's also,
I think he's way too honest by saying, as you're saying, the statement almost certainly implies you're going to try and leave at the end of next year. Another thing you do normally is, and into the future, which could be marvelous. And I'm actually almost shocked they didn't lie more on this.
I mean, look, I think what's true is that 100 Thieves would like to have this guest provisional slot forever. I think that's true, but I think it's also true that 100 Thieves doesn't have any control over this beyond this year. This is the arrangement they've hammered out with Riot, but they have, like, straight up, they have been bought out. They took the money and they left. And Riot said, oh shit, this looks really bad. Hey guys, we don't have a solution to this problem right now. Do you want to stay around for one more year and we'll like try and sell this later? And they're like, okay, give us money. And they're like, okay. Riot's like, okay. At the end of the day, maybe Riot, we don't know. I don't know, at least. Maybe they offered 100 Thieves more money than they did to Immortals and NRG in order to stick around. And they said, you're not going to get the stipend, but you're going to get more money. And basically you get a de facto stipend by the more money they paid them. That's a real thing that could have happened.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget TSM are coming back as well.
So they're definitely coming back.
They're probably just keeping the slot warm for them.
By the way, you could even use that to imply, though, that's how desperate Riot must be. Like, that means they can't even go to a TSM and go, you want to just be in the league for free for a while. Well, apparently no one else fucking wants it, bro. That's actually really disturbing. This is actually low key. Like, I obviously knew this was a bad thing, but this almost makes it seem like Riot's way more desperate than I even thought. Holy shit.
Well, also you get into a problem where it's now Riot selling the slot, which they haven't done in a long time, because remember that it was other teams selling the slot previously. So how mad are you if you're FlyQuest or your Shopify Rebellion, who just paid like 20 million and then 12 million for these slots, and Riot's like, shit, we need somebody, 5 million for this one. Anybody? Any takers? I think it looks really bad, right?
What genuine question. What do you think a slot in the Latin X Championship for League of Legends is
I like
worth?
that you keep calling it that.
No, I'm going to make that nickname stick. Right, the Latinx Riot Games Championship of the Americas. Like, real question, what do you think a slot is worth? Like, if you had to put together a deck and do a little pitch for me to buy it, what am I paying?
I think it's probably worth, what they're paying teams to exit, somewhere probably within the 5 to 8 million range, because they are giving people, $1.5 million in guaranteed minimum revenue share, right? Or in partnership payments. So you can't ignore that. And you can actually profitably fund a team on $1.5 million now. So you could actually just make profit straight up off of that, even after player salaries, coach salaries, cost of living, So I think I don't think it's definitely not worth nothing, right?
You would have, so let's imagine, right? I'm not Richard Lewis. Instead, I am an optimistic, happy, svelte full head of hair, esports, pro esports millionaire, multi-millionaire, right? And I've decided I'm ready. I'm going to make, happy gaming, right? And I'm going to optimist gaming, and I'm going to buy several esports teams and have several esports properties. Realistically, to be part of this league, I think you could maybe get me to pay $1 million.
No,
Maybe.
Richard, that just doesn't make sense because they actually are paying you a decent amount of money. And also, here's the thing: if there are other,
which I'm gonna have to spend on salaries.
But that's fine because you're still running a profitable company with a guaranteed revenue of $1.5 million.
Right? If like your stipend is $1 million, right? And you still have to have a headquarter in Los Angeles because and then you have the salaries. I don't know exactly like the takes labor laws on the corporation side. So I assume, right, and I agree with you that you have a positive revenue at the end of the year, right? You run a low budget team in LA. How much do you get at the end of the year, right? Imagine you make a 200K margin out of the $1 million you give, right? So everything costs 800K and you get 200. To make your $1 million back, it's 5 years in esports, right? Not thinking that's right up front. If you pay, like you can invest that money on pretty much any other assets, right? Sure. Because you have you have to discount the future income to get the current value. So I feel like I'm not saying 1 million, but I think that even 5 or 6 million seems a little far-fetched to me.
Yeah.
I disagree, and here's the reason why. You could get other companies like Shopify who can double dip as a marketing aspect for your own company. And if you're planning on building out other synergistic brands, that I do think it probably is worth that. Look, I'm going to be really interested to see who they sell this to, obviously. But I think for the right company, it's not outrageous.
Yeah, I just can't. I just don't feel that, man. Like Duncan, you got to chime in on this. Like 5 million in esports right now seems like such a fucking pipe dream. Like to get someone to pay that for a slot in any league. Yeah.
The problem is, look, this is where we're all like lagging from like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, you could get like 20 million just as a raise for your company. I feel like to get any millions is insane. Yeah, now
you just got perks. That's it.
Even for one of the biggest North American orgs, to even get millions feels like you're squeezing blood out of a stone, mate. That sounds really hard to do. And I know what Richard means by that, right? Basically, you're right, Monty. In theory, I could do it and just like make money. You could break even, maybe. Maybe you could get the cheapest venue in LA. You could run the team with the lowest possible salaries, lowest coaching staff, everything. Come last place, okay, and maybe you could break even or make a tiny amount. In that scenario, though, what am I here for? What am I actually getting from that? What am I parlaying it into? Remember, it's only a provisional slot too. So, and also if you talk about a real slot anyway, like does it even have a future? Like the game itself's dying out in the region. So I don't know about that. I also feel like wasn't most of the investment in esports always predicated, not even on the idea it's a good deal today, but it's what you get in the future. We're going to
obviously that's to Zabatine's point about
the future's gone now, hasn't it? So the problem now is
that's to Zabatine's point about the value of growth. Like if you have $5 million, is it better to put that money into esports or like literally just the stock market, right? Yeah. And the stock market's been doing very well in the last few years, guys. So it's the opportunity cost that exists. But that's why I'm saying
doing
for
very
the
well
right
at the
company.
Moment. Has something happened in America in the last 48 hours or something?
It's crazy. The stock market popped up. Anyway, but the point I'm making is that for a company like Shopify, where it becomes part of their advertising strategy, which is not a problem, that is literally where Korean esports came from. I think there could be value there, right? There could be value there.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.